The real history of Nintendo. If you are a connoisseur of fine video games, or a social media content creator dependent on a reliable cash cow to maintain your lifestyle choices, then you have no doubt heard of Nintendo. YouTube is literally filled to the brim with countless mini documentaries about the history and success of this juggernaut of the video game landscape. But thus far, nobody has ever got it right when trying to tell the true story of this company. Many have tried, many have half-heartedly tried. A handful have tried really hard. One or two got really close to the truth, but then at the last possible moment, they dropped the ball at the 1 yard line and tried to scamper back to get it, but it was too late because the ball had already rolled out of bounds and some stupid twat picked it up after fighting his drunk cousin for it and was now drenched in beer and bleeding from his left ear. He couldn't hear you screaming at him even if he wanted to. But it doesn't matter. You failed. Despite your years of personal knowledge and meticulous research, your so-called documentary proved to be about as comprehensive and accurate as the prosecution of O.J. Simpson. So I guess it's up to me to finally educate the internet accurately and save the entire mess of slack-jawed Nintendo fanboy douchebag know-it-alls from embarrassing themselves any further by trying to actually their way into a dunce corner of their own making. Don't worry, morons. You can keep your pointy hats on and smugly wag your greasy fingers about till your half-bovine children waddle their way in for their daily lecture about your Miyamoto trivia supremacy as you mentally waterboard the few people alive that you supposedly love with a self-righteous indignation usually reserved for suicide bombers and Starbucks baristas. Nobody is stealing your toys, weirdos. Right. So, with the formalities out of the way, the time has come to embark upon the forbidden quest to obtain factual and correct knowledge about a company responsible for such hit games as Mario is Missing and Urban Champion. A company that gave us indispensable innovations like the Virtual Boy and Labo Cardboard. Today, we pull back the opaque polyester curtain of deliberate ignorance from their otaku apologist Roach Motel obscuring the stench of the naked, emaciated corpse of an artificially vaunted corporate profiteering grift. Today, we discuss the history of Nintendo. Part 1. Nintendo's early history is mired in dark secrecy, but also in ambiguous amorphousness and inexplicable indescript convolution of exposition. As a youth, Nintendo was exposed to insidious preternatural sorcery by its father, 8tendo, a flamboyant, charismatic fortune teller and weekend street vendor, who sustained the family with displays of supernatural conjuring and the occasional sale of boiled frankenfurters drenched in sweet relish and onions. Determined not to follow its father's footsteps, one late hour, Nintendo would abscond into the night, never to return to the cruel oppression of his father's cryptic affairs or the nitrate-enriched monotony of unsold conies. Had his father been more affluent, perhaps all of our gaming history would be different today. Or had he been even incompetently skilled as a clairvoyant. But alas, Nintendo would never again see his dilapidated home or the father that had borne him, and who would eventually go on to marry Eva Gabor and sire 3 children who actually didn't hate their father even when he was in the nursing home wetting himself. And so Nintendo went out into the world to make his way. After spending years in foster homes and saving any money it could manage, Nintendo decided to seek out an education and enroll in local university, but it was really expensive and a lot of work. So Nintendo decided instead to become a corporation. Nintendo filed for incorporation in the state of Nevada, where gaming is respected above all other places on Earth, and began the next phase of its life. Nintendo would be a company that made video games. Good video games, perhaps overpriced video games, but video games. Nintendo would take every idea that anyone had ever had about video games, change them slightly, and then charge more than everyone else for a similar product, but with their name on it. It was a perfect business model, and it worked. In a few days, Nintendo had become the world leader in the creation, distribution, litigation, and termination of video games. Nintendo had Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Samus, Link, and countless other cartoon cereal box mascots, and children are suckers for that shit. So Nintendo would soon take over the entire video game racket, but not before downtown Chicago and upstate New York endured an extended campaign of terror. The bodies piled up, and the blood flowed like a warm river of red sake down into Lake Erie, and actually improved the purity of Lake Michigan. When the dust settled, Atari, Sega, Mattel, Coleco, and Hudson Soft had all been massacred. For decades, children would relive the trauma of these dark years as Nintendo's capos demanded ever-increasing protection taxes. But the unfortunate that refused to pay or couldn't would only find themselves ostracized to the exile of Steam. Or God forbid, Xbox. Nintendo's tyranny would last for decades before anyone dared to challenge them, and in the end, it would be their own arrogance and greed that would lead to their downfall. Nintendo would make a mistake so cataclysmic that literally nothing could save them. In March of 1995, Nintendo would launch the Wii U. They tried to launch it. Nobody understood what it was. Seriously, nobody. Parents thought that it was a children's porta potty. And they were right. But no child worth a shit was going to pee on that thing. And so, Nintendo died, taking its dark secrets to the grave, and any understanding of what they were thinking when they decided to literally screw their own company and flush their money down the toilet. Wii U. Perhaps there is one that could explain this and provide the world with an understanding of the failures and irresponsible stupidity of his son's self-destructive orgy of irrational collapse. Provide some insight into the grotesquely stillborn miscarriage of Nintendo's final console. But alas. Oh yeah, there's the Switch too. It's okay. Never mind.